So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here and clicking on the video. This is, I believe, the first video we're going to have in a series in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Week. And we're going to be having some conversations focused on kindness and well-being. So first of all, hello, my name is Adam. I work as part of the curriculum team here at SCL. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Brad Rushton. Hi, Brad.
Hi.
So Brad, it's always important to ask, how are you doing? How are you? And for those who may not know, can you describe your role and position at SCL?
Not a problem. I'm well, Adam. Thank you. So I have the fortunate pleasure of being the Managing Director of SCL Education and Training, which means it's I have the privilege of leading the education business, working with a senior leadership team that take direct responsibility for post-16 education, adult delivery, and also levy and non-levy apprenticeship provision across the UK, specialising, as we do, within sport, education, early years and business services.
Also sounds like you might be a bit busy.
A little bit.
Excellent. So as you're aware, and I know you're a big advocate of it, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. This year's theme being kindness.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the adjustments that SCL we've made to ensure we continue to prioritise kindness at this difficult time?
Absolutely. I guess what I'd probably need to talk about before I talk about kind of the kindness element would just be we're clearly operating in really unprecedented times. And as part of our kind of business planning, there was no way as part of our roadmap for the year we would have ever anticipated as a business being in a position like we are now, forced into lockdown, now looking at phased planning out of lockdown. And I could just see pre kind of lockdown the impact that the potential unknown had on the senior team across the business, and how well they really adapted and where they instantly went as a team to think about their staff, the learners, and everybody who we kind of touch as a business across the UK, and what we could do in order to be able to support them. So my hat is off to the team and the work that they've done, and how they've looked to prioritise in order to be able to make sure the service that we provide, which is critical for the development of young people and adults across the country, can continue in a business as usual vein. But from a mental health and a well-being, from a kindness perspective, it was really critical for us that we knew what we would lose would be the kind of face-to-face interaction with our people, that opportunity to sit down, talk to them, have conversations and understand how they're doing, the stresses and strains of working within the education sector, and what we could do to essentially alleviate that. And also knowing, as a business which also works within the kids activity sector, there was going to be kind of contrasting implications, an activity business where we knew we were going to have to look at what we could do to keep the business sustained, and protect the business in terms of its long-term sustainability. From an education perspective, what could we do in order to be able to keep the business running, because we knew there was going to be a demand for that service. So we've got contrasting pockets of people that we needed to make sure that we looked after through this. And in addition to that, it being a real unknown for the learners and the staff that we were working with in terms of the removal of control. A lot of our staff lost control, and some of the choices that they normally are able to make, and our learners as well, that was just removed from them as a result of the kind of lockdown which was enforced upon us. So we set out to kind of try and define how we could continue to operate and serve our learners, and keep the business sustainable long term, and B, how we could then look to communicate with our staff effectively and efficiently on a day-to-day basis, and then just work collaboratively over that period of time as we were learning as a business as well. So the first thing we wanted to do was make sure we'd got what was like an almost always on strategy, the ability to connect to our workforce as remote as it was, and serve them with the information and keep them connected. So we launched a wellbeing channel. We operate now through the Microsoft Teams platform. It was something which was part of our strategy anyway, that we'd introduced into the business, and we've accelerated. The kind of lockdown has forced the acceleration of Microsoft Teams, which has been fantastic for us as an organisation. But we then wanted to kind of utilise it to connect with our staff through the wellbeing, through a wellbeing channel. So we launched a wellbeing channel. We themed it. We have theme days for that wellbeing channel, and utilize it as the platform to kind of share content, send information, and ensure we keep in touch with them, and can always be connected, and they know that we're always going to be there for them. In addition for that, we knew that the kind of locked in removal of choice was going to expose our workforce and our learners to different experiences. So we wanted to make sure that we introduced a guide for our staff, a guide for our learners, and a guide for our parents of our learners, which allowed us to share with them our experiences and what they can do in order to be able to kind of stay safe during these periods of time. And I think the final thing that we saw, and a lot through our workforce as well, and some of the frustrations we felt through our workforce, was the impact of trying to do everything during these lockdown periods. How can I look after my kids? How can I maintain a full-time job, and also provide and do everything that I needed to do, all in the constraints of our own home? And we saw actually early on, across the senior leadership team and across pockets of the organisation as well, there was a real struggle in terms of trying to look after children, and what could we do as a business in order to be able to help alleviate those problems. And it was something, when we looked at the kids activity business, that was a real concern and something we needed to consider. So we utilised, or we developed some resources that we could push out through our social media channels in order to be able to help the parents of our staff that were parents, and also our customers, our kids and learners, in order to be able to help try and engage physical activity sessions, maths and English sessions, all targeted at kind of primary ages, to just give something back to our customers in order to be able to make sure that they knew that they could have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather in terms of looking after their children. And we were kind of doing what we could and putting them in safe hands during that period of time.
Excellent. So, well, first of all, I'd like to echo your cap doffing to those, that have worked so hard. Lots of change, lots of forced change by the sound of it. But one thing that stayed particularly constant, and always hopefully will, is our very clear and important vision, values, mission. How would you say that kindness fits into these?
Well, I guess our vision, ultimately, our kind of purpose is we want to ensure we make a difference and we positively impact in the communities that we serve, be it from a kids activity provision, working in schools and offering wraparound services with schools, right the way through to our kind of education provision, and helping develop young people across the country. But what we have to look at from a kindness perspective, and what we try to do, is we know that through lockdown measures, one of the things that would have been a huge concern for us would have not been in a position in order to be able to provide our education service on a day-to-day basis. We know what we do, and how we connect and engage with our learners throughout the course of a week, and how much time we spend connecting and engaging with them. If that's removed, then we would have been, it would have been a real challenge, no doubt, for parents, key workers, carers of our young people at home. And what we've also seen within our employability division, where we work with our kind of harder to reach students, is just the work that has gone on from the team in order to be able to stay as connected as humanly possible, and make sure that we continue to positively impact within that community. And I think for me, that just kind of ties back into everything that we're trying to do. What we've always tried to do, and what we always try and do, is be as kind of learner learner centric as possible and as customer centric as possible, and think of the best ways that we possibly can to ensure that we're giving as much back and doing as much as we humanly possible to positively impact within that space.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots going on. You know, you've talked about lots of ways we're reaching out and doing positive things, but in particular, have you got any examples of staff or learners where you think what you've picked up and really seen a demonstration of kindness?
I think it wouldn't be fair for me, Adam, to be honest, to kind of single anybody out during this period of time, because I've seen so many examples. So I want to be relatively generic because I've seen so many things. I've seen staff who have committed their own time to deliver exercise sessions through a live platform in their living room, beamed out to all of the other staff within the business, in order to be able to make sure their expertise and their passion for fitness can be lived by other members of the team, and they do their bit to keep their team members active, their team members healthy. We all know the positive impact that exercise has on mental health and well-being, and we've had staff members who've given up their own time in order to be able to deliver those sessions, which has been truly incredible. And I guess what I've also seen within our kids activity business, where we've been engaged by schools to look after vulnerable learners and the children of key workers, is just their absolute bravery in the face of a global pandemic, where they've put ultimately their lives on the line to go and ensure that they can support the schools that we work with and provide that service and provide that experience. And what I saw when I had the opportunity to see that and the impact it made and the difference it had, and the fact that during this global pandemic they were in a position to be able to put smiles on young people's faces and keep them engaged was kind of truly fantastic. So there's a couple of examples, and there's been so many across the UK in terms of what the team have done.
Yeah, I think you've answered that really well. There are just too many positive examples to be able to pick out a few. So, I'm sure everybody, not necessarily not the name checks, but everybody understands that it's appreciated and valued. So again, you've looked at and you've discussed so many things that we've done and that we're looking at doing and adjustments we've had to make. What do you think? What lessons will we learn moving forward?
I think that we ultimately we've always had within our roadmap as an organisation innovation. It's kind of embedded within our plans as a business. We are now in a position, I guess, ultimately where this lockdown has really forced a way of working on us, which potentially will impact on or could become our new normal. So it's had an acceleration from a business planning, from a business blueprint perspective, which I can only really see that as positive. There's lots of learnings that we're taking during this period of time, some things that have gone incredibly well, and there's been some lessons learned during this period of time, which we can now reflect on, adapt, and ensure that we make those changes as we come out the other side. I think the cultural impact on the business as well is probably the thing that I've seen the most, and I think that impact will be something which will be long lasting, apologies, and will stay with us for hopefully will be part of the kind of cultural change, cultural transformation that we'll have for a long time, and will ultimately shape the way that we work now as a business. We've seen pockets of the organisation which ultimately sometimes work at polar ends of a spectrum now coming together and working collaboratively. We've seen the two businesses that stand as separate businesses in terms of the kids activity business and the education business working together in order to be able to make sure that that we can support each other effectively, sharing resources, sharing staff, sharing ideas, and really thinking outside of the box in terms of new ways of working. I guess what it's done more than anything, it's really shown me and really shown the team the whole kind of concept of us being stronger together. That no individuals, as a team, collectively we work really well together, and at no time during this period of lockdown or during the pandemic, there's been no time for individuals. It's all been about teamwork, and it's really showcased that and the importance of us collaboratively working together, respecting each other, and that will have and has had a significant impact and will be long lasting across the SCL business.
I think that's fascinating, how it's almost an irony where being forced apart has brought us closer together.
Yeah.
But I really like that. That's amazing, and something that I can attest to as well. Absolutely. So pertinent to us, I guess there will be others in similar situations, but with us having such a strong focus on sport, do you think sport can be a tool to encourage kindness?
Without doubt. I think we know as an organisation the power of sport, and we can see how sport positively impacts on people's lives on a daily basis, be it from utilising sport as a hook to pull people in, to get them to kind of be actively engaged in education for those hard to reach learners, or those that just learn better within a sporting environment. We can see that, and the principles of sport from a teamwork perspective, being able to recognise when you've got a member of the team who's perhaps not necessarily at the races that day, and there's something going on, what that breeds in terms of your opportunity to put your arm around somebody, have conversations with them, and just check in and make sure they're okay. We know that the kind of sense of belonging that sport brings, and how that can really help kind of showcase kindness, but not just kindness, everything embodied within kind of mental health, the activity levels, mental well-being, physical well-being. Sport really does have a huge role to play,
and hopefully going forward as well. Absolutely. So brilliant, thank you. I know I've kept you for some time now. I know you're very busy. I'm going to ask you one last question to leave us on, and I'll leave you to it. So I'm sure this video will be inundated with views. I'm sure it'll go viral and the like. So if there was a final pertinent message to end on to learners, staff, everybody, this Mental Health Awareness Week, what would you say?
As cliche as this is, for me it would be, it really is okay not to be okay, because this situation, we have seen so many great things, and as you rightly say, being forced into lockdown and almost forced into isolation for the workforce has really in most instances brought us stronger together. I think, from the conversations I've had with my direct team that work for me, everyone's had challenging times during this lockdown period, and be that from just a small frustration at home, just to genuine struggles in terms of not being able to get out and have the choice and the freedom of choice, which they normally have on a daily basis, and that ability to pick up the phone, have conversations and talk to people, I think is really important. So I have no doubt there will be people who don't feel great about the situation that we've been forced into, and that's okay. There is a network of people around them, be it from their friends, their teammates who they're involved with from a sport perspective, their tutors who deliver on their programme, and from a workforce point of view, we have not only their line managers, we have our safeguarding network, our SEND network, and the senior leadership team, which are always available to listen to the team. So I guess my kind of final message would be that's okay not to be okay, but utilize your network, friends, family, whoever you can, in order to be able to be in a position to talk to people. And from there, I'm sure positive interventions can be made in order to be able to allow you to make the right steps in terms of feeling better.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Something to think about. Indeed, it's not okay. It's okay, sorry, to be okay and not okay. But brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Brad. Really appreciate you taking some time out to have a chat with us. Hope you stay well, and all the best.
Likewise. See you soon. Cheers, Adam.